everybody. I'm Brad Kam, co-founder and CRO at Unstoppable Domains. Happy to be here at Reimagine 2020.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Reimagine 2020 of the Halloween edition of Tales from the Crypto. This is our fourth event within the Reimagine series of conferences. I'll be your host today, Adam, with the MouseBelt team. If you've missed out on any of our past three events, feel free to visit the Reimagine 2020 website at ri2020.io for full access to over 150 interviews from some of your favorite projects and individuals in the space. You know, our main goal is pretty simple. It's just to talk shop with top projects and leaders in the industry to shed light and help us understand blockchain's real impact and innovation, advancements towards the Web 3.0, and a decentralized infrastructure of our future, really. So without further ado, we have a returning guest, Brad Kam, here from Unstoppable Domains. How you doing, Brad? Thanks for joining.
Doing great. Thanks a bunch for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So we've had you on before. For those that maybe missed it, you could go to the Reimagine 2020 YouTube channel, pull up Reimagine 2020 Brad Kam, and it'll populate there. Interesting story, good stuff there. Feel free to take a peek at that. I have him back again, so hopefully we can shed some new light and get some updates and see what's going on. But Brad, what I noticed from the last discussion is we didn't quite get your journey into blockchain. I've done countless interviews now over the last 4 months, and it's interesting. I would love to hear your side and how you found down the rabbit hole and how you got into blockchain.
Sure. So I first heard about it from the Wired article in 2011, the rise and fall of Bitcoin, which a lot of people probably heard and read. And I remember thinking, oh, this is cool. And then I remember tossing the magazine aside and then not thinking about it again for a couple of years. I moved out to San Francisco in the end of 2012, December of 2012, to work on a marketing tech startup. I spent 6 years working on that. But when I moved to San Francisco, I moved into this hacker house called 20 Mission, right in the center of the Mission District. It was this crazy place. I think the day after I got there, they were shooting a horror film there. Just to give you kind of an idea of what the building looked like. They didn't need to change the scenery. It was ready to go for the film. So there was a clown getting murdered or something like that right outside my door. They eventually built it up a little bit. It got a little bit nicer, but it was basically it was started by a early Bitcoin supporter, and essentially everybody there was some sort of a Bitcoin enthusiast. The second Bitcoin exchange was launched in the basement of the building, Trade Hill, second Bitcoin exchange in the US. A bunch of the early meetups were in the building. Vitalik was giving talks in our courtyard before Ethereum went live. So it was basically everybody that I met when I moved to San Francisco was a crypto person. Maybe 3 weeks after I got there, I read the white paper, maybe read it another couple of times just that first week. Thought it was one of the most amazing things I'd ever heard. Was a little skeptical about whether or not this could actually work implementation wise. I'm not technical, so I kind of needed to trust, my developer friends essentially, that this was real from a tech perspective. They convinced me that it was, and been reading about it and thinking about it ever since. That was more than 7 years ago.
So how is it living in that pad? I know 20th and Mission. It's not there anymore, I don't think, right?
Still there. It's still there. It's gone through a lot of phases. So a lot of those early folks and a lot of those early crypto folks have since moved on. But it was pretty wild back in the day. I mean, you were doing 500 person parties with multiple DJs going until 6 a.m. and stuff like that. A lot of early crypto meetups. It was amazing. I mean, I met so many people.
Yeah. Who'd you meet? So Vitalik was there. So my CTO as well was in a hacker house. I think he might have been 20th Mission as well, but there was another one nearby, and Vitalik was pitching Ethereum at that time, which kind of blew everybody's mind when he was trying to sell tokens. And obviously my CTO now wish he would have bought some.
Yeah. So I didn't get to talk to Vitalik there, but I was taking this class called Blockchain U in South Bay in I think 2015, and Vitalik gave a talk there talking about Ethereum. And when I heard it, it sounded like the most convoluted, confusing thing ever. Everybody was like, "Why? What's gas? Why is there gas? Is that different than ETH, the token?" It was just so confusing, and I was like, "Is this really going to work?" It just seems so bizarre. So I didn't immediately get it, I don't think. It probably took me another year after the thing was live, and I started seeing some apps. And then finally, once I could see apps, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now this is a decentralized platform for apps. And also, yeah, so that was really the trigger for me. Um, when it was all abstract, I actually didn't really get it. The concept of a smart contract, I didn't really get it.
No, yeah, and you're not the only one, right? I think I came across Bitcoin in 2013 at the bank at the time, and I asked that he was buying $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, and it was just kind of interesting. Like, what are you buying? You know, do you know what you're buying? And he's just said his brother was an advisor. Like, he just said, just buy it. I was like, oh my god, all right, that's kind of cool. Kind of kept my eye on it for a little bit, and then went to grad school shortly after, and people were talking about XRP and like Ethereum, and Coinbase was out like shortly around that time. But it's just cool to kind of hear your journey and kind of to where you're at now. So to put it into context a little bit, at a high level, what is unstoppable domains? We're going to get into it. So just, I want to preface kind of the conversation on what you're doing, and then I'll ask you some more questions.
Yeah, so we're building DNS on the blockchain. So domain registries currently are part of uh, live on DNS servers. They're managed by this international nonprofit called ICANN. It's a gigantic centralized system with a whole bunch of different approvers. And you can move that system over and put it on the blockchain, and then users are in control of domain names. No one can take the domain names away from users. And then they can use those to point to their websites on decentralized storage networks. And then all of a sudden, you've got websites that only users can put up or take down.
And how do you use it's kind of actually a different question. How do you use Web3 right now, or blockchain? Are you completely using this type of technology in your personal life? Like, you own crypto? Are you using dApps and kind of exploring what a Web3 has to offer?
Yeah, absolutely. I play around with dApps and DEXs and some of the lending platforms, and of course play around with NFTs and domain names and things like that as well. Domain names right now are mostly getting used for sending crypto payments, because you can also attach all of your crypto addresses to the domain name. So it's kind of like your decentralized Venmo account. You can just share that, and someone can send you money in any cryptocurrency. And then on the website side, it's mostly people doing kind of like experimentation. It's kind of like early days, people putting up their dexes and their personal pages and some content and things like that up on the decentralized web.
And why is this important? I'm sure there's various points here, but let's kind of take it back, and maybe you can shed some light on the history of the internet a little bit at a high level, the sense of what DNS was made for at one point, and then kind of obviously led you to this point. How did you get to this point? Actually, is it the traditional system and kind of how it operated, and you're like, there's got to be a better way? And then obviously the technology's caught up, so now it's kind of snowballed and allowed you to create unstoppable domains.
Yeah, so I think if you were to diagnose the problem, uh, the internet is not user controlled. So you don't own your assets on the internet. Your domain names are controlled by the GoDaddies of the world or whatever. You don't control your content. Your content is sitting on Amazon Web Services, your hosting provider, and they can just turn it off. Or it's sitting on Facebook if you're a consumer, and you've got all your social data tied up in there, or on YouTube. And as a result of this, because they have all this data, it's causing all of these issues. One of the issues is they get to censor you. They get to decide who can publish. Another is they can get hacked, and your information can go out to people that you didn't intend, or maybe they just sell it to those people. And then, of course, governments can use it to spy on you. And all of this comes from the fact that the data is sitting on centralized servers, and the assets are sitting on centralized servers. And if you take those things and you put them in control, you put them on decentralized networks and put them in control of users, you change the entire incentive structure of the internet.
And so I think, a lot of people have gotten comfortable over the years, right, with a lot of the FANG companies, of the Apples, the Googles, and with all of our information. But it was an evolution, right? And this is a new evolution of the variations of the internet I think the internet came out in the 60s, 70s, and it was meant for educators. And I think at the university level, brought on by the Department of Defense to like transfer, information. And then you have Web 2.0, and this is kind of e-commerce. And now we have websites and interacting and being able to move much more efficiently online. And now we're advancing to Web 3.0. But how we're evolving into Web 3.0 is based off of these bigger players and the business model. So there's like a complete paradigm shift, as you just mentioned. Like it's a different way of thinking, and it's putting kind of our data back in the user's control, right?
It's a great way to say it. And I think if you're going to go historically, I think in the 1990s, when the internet was first getting popular, that's what a lot of the early internet pioneers thought they were making. They thought they were making a peer-to-peer open internet that everyone was going to be able to use. And that was part of what was motivating them to build a lot of this stuff. A lot of the early browsers and things were all kind of shared this philosophy. And then what happened in Web 2.0 was it became a lot more efficient for Amazon to start storing everything on their servers, whereas previously every company would create their own set of servers and store their own data. So all of a sudden because of efficiency, we handed over 1/3 of the internet to Amazon, and out of efficiency, the things that social networks were able to provide us, we handed over all of our personal data. And we did this willingly in Web 2.0. We did this happily in Web 2.0 because we were getting these services for the first time, and they were free and they were great. And I also think it wasn't as dangerous at the beginning. But as these tools got better, and as we started putting so much of our lives into them, all of a sudden, then we had this tipping point. And the tipping point probably was 2016, where all of a sudden, Facebook had so much information, they were able to sell basically a database of the entire American population to whomever. And then it was used by a foreign government in order to hack our election. So like that is a sign that like, okay, now we're finally like hitting the face with what happens when you have these data monopolies. And so now we're reevaluating, okay, Web 2 is still awesome from an efficiency perspective, but it's less awesome from a security and incentive perspective. And we're now in 2012, I think we could focus on just the good parts, because we hadn't really experienced the bad parts yet. Now as a society, and 2016 was just the beginning, I think it's been getting worse day by day over the past few years. And I think people are very aware of this now around the world. When we started this company in January of 2018, people were like, is internet censorship really a problem? Are data monopolies on the internet really a problem? I know that like Facebook's doing some bad stuff or whatever, but is it really that bad? No one says that anymore. 3 years later, no one says that anymore. It's in the zeitgeist. People get it. This is a problem. Now we're looking for solutions, but that's a great time for Web3, the decentralized web, to shine. Because now we have the regular world saying, hey, what we're currently using is bad. We're addicted to it. So we're not going to just like use nothing. We're not going to go back to, the 2000s where you couldn't figure out exactly what your friend was doing or what they were wearing every single second of the day. We're definitely not going to go back to that backwards world. Yeah. But we know there's a problem. So can you help us? And we're getting this call from the traditional web to say, hey, like, are things broken? Do you have any ideas? And I think the crypto world can raise their hand and say, absolutely. Absolutely, we do.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think, as a society, you definitely get accustomed to giving up passwords, and everything's now like, what's your social? Like even in the physical world, we're giving that, even online, everybody's asking for social. At one point that was like, you don't give that out and you keep the card at home and like never look at it and you memorize it. And so we got convenient, it's convenient as a society to give up our information, but it really snuck up in the sense of how much data and info we were giving up to these companies. And that whole term of, data is more valuable than money or whatever it is right now. Like, they know everything about what we do. Have you seen that Netflix documentary yet?
Yeah, I have this dilemma.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I kind of want to tune that in, real soon. But yeah, it's just interesting world. But yeah, there is this evolution. We're moving forward, and so how does unstoppable domains work? in the sense of what is it providing? Let's just go maybe to, I want to get into how it's providing or creating value in the crypto world, and how is it creating value maybe for an average user, or who's your target user, you would say?
Yeah, so what we've made is kind of like GoDaddy for the blockchain, except that we've also built our own domain registries. So we have two domain registries we've created, .crypto and .zil, and then you can go to unstoppabledomains.com and you can find domains, you can buy domains, you can manage domains, you can build websites, all from there. So what we're trying to make is the portal for consumers to go and do everything that they would want to do with the decentralized web. So our users, our customers are crypto users, people who want to send crypto. They want to have a new way to make it easier. They're interested in the decentralized web. Maybe they're building a dApp, or they already have a dApp and they want to launch that on the decentralized web. Maybe they're a content creator and they want to put content on there. There's a lot of different reasons to use the internet. It's going to ultimately be all reasons. But for now, it's starting with use cases specific to the crypto community. And I think that makes sense. Like, crypto users are going to be the early adopters of the decentralized web because they have these problems and they understand these tools.
So Unstoppable Domains, is it composable? Is this something you plug in? Is this something you build off the website and now you can start attaching backend blockchain dApps and apps and backend software?
Yeah, so what happens is domain names are ERC 721 tokens. They're stored inside of your wallet, just like any other collectible would be, or just like a cryptocurrency would be. And so that means that you own it completely. It doesn't matter what happens to Unstoppable Domains. If we were to shut down, you'd still have it sitting there in your wallet. You can do whatever you want with it. So you can point whatever information you want to it. Unstoppable is also building tools to make it so you can do more stuff with your domains. We want you to have more options, but you could, of course, take it and do whatever you wanted with it.
And how is that going? I know Mateo on your team. I think he's local around here, seeing him all the time. Talking about some grants at one point, like beginning of the summer. How did that work? I think you were offering grants and bounties to get some of the developer tooling and resources available. How did that go? And what was the purpose of providing this program for kind of the developer community? And you kind of just touched on it a little bit right now, but dive into that.
So there's a couple of different things. One thing is for developers who have apps like wallets or browsers or browser extensions that can support domain names for sending crypto or for viewing websites. So we have a grant program for applications to support those features. Right now, I think there's 24 wallets that support sending money for domain names. There's Opera browser on the website side, and more coming soon. So that's a big focus on the app integration side. And so we have a grant program for those apps to be able to integrate blockchain domains. Separately, we also have grants for developers that want to build awesome decentralized websites. And this is just deploying a website on IPFS Filecoin. One thing that a lot of people are excited about right now is putting video with paywalls, video with subscriptions, all kinds of things around video, because it's new stuff. You can actually put content plus money on the decentralized web in a way that you couldn't do in the regular web. So that's an area there's a lot of stuff that people are playing around with, and we would love for there to be more.
And I think you just touched on it right now, that like the wallet aspect. How important is that? Because that's pretty critical to have integrations with wallets, and the point being for payments. So UI UX, like user friendly, right? And why is it important to plug all these 12 wallets? And I'm sure you want more.
So the domain name can essentially act like your decentralized Venmo account. It's just a very simple thing that you can share with anyone in the world. They can just type it in and pay you. And the difference between, a Venmo account and a decentralized one is, one, you control it. So, Venmo can't turn you off, Unstoppable can't turn you off. And two, it's portable. It works across all your apps. So Venmo works inside a Venmo app. Sending money to a blockchain domain works inside of 24 crypto apps. And hopefully in the future, many, many more. So that's just a superpower that you get with decentralized tech.
And I mean, I think some people, and I've heard this before, but I'll have you kind of maybe touch on that real quick. Like, why is it important to have this type of censor resistant. I think you have a couple examples of like, we live in the States. So a lot of even crypto in general, people are used to the dollar, we're used to this way. We're used to Venmo. We're used to the web 2.0 as we just talked about. So I don't think people understand kind of like the issues that you're solving, maybe not here in San Francisco for me, but globally in certain parts of the world where shit gets shut down, they block your website, you can't use it, and stuff like that. Do you have a couple examples you can share for our audience here that might be tuning in?
The thing to keep in mind is that putting users in control benefits all of us. It doesn't matter if you're worried about getting censored or not. It matters about what happens when you have technology that's truly user controlled, free, open source. You wind up getting all kinds of new tools that get built on it. It's the same reason why we care about crypto, even if we're not worried about our bank account getting shut off. It's because crypto works better. Crypto is better technology than what's being used in the other world. So that's what allows all of us to benefit. Now, the areas where decentralized tech really performs well are interoperability. So all of a sudden, things like my decentralized Venmo account just work across dozens or hundreds of apps. Hacking doesn't matter if unstoppable domains or any of the apps I'm using get hacked anymore. They're not honeypots. And then censorship. And I think the areas where censorship and domain names really come into play, it's crazy how many different places domain names are being used in order to shut people down. There's one where France.com was sold to this individual in 1994. He's owned it for a long time. France, the country, decided that they should have it, and they took it. And now the guy is suing. But they were able to use the fact that there was somebody they could call up and say, hey, we think we should have France.com. So they were able to take it away. Generally speaking, you would consider that to be a generic domain name. There shouldn't be any rights granted to them. There's special deals that domain name registries make with the Motion Picture Association and other large lobby groups for copyright holders, to where effectively what they do is they go around the courts. They say, I have a deal where if I complain to you, you take the domain down before the courts get involved. Then we can go and fight it out in the courts. But the first thing that happens is I take you down. And they use this to shut down all kinds of content. Other crazy ones, the .ly domain registry .ly is the Libyan government. And the Libyan government changed power in the early, I think 2011-ish, and it became a religious government. And then they started policing the morality of all .l websites, including things they considered to be inappropriate on Canadian websites that happened to use .ly. A lot of startups were using .ly because they thought it sounded cool. All of a sudden, they realized the problem underlying the domain name system. Now, on the website side, it's crazy how they use the hosting services. In Turkey, they have a law that there's 150 words that you can't publish. One of them is gay, another one is naked. Those websites get taken down immediately. It's illegal. Chinese government has a process where you have to apply with a license in order to publish a website in the first place. So the internet is absolutely being used to reinforce.
It's like a track and trace.
And it's all right there. It's all right there, right out there in the open. And they've slowly been using it in this way.
Yeah.
Like again, like the thing to keep in mind here is that we are being boiled slowly in this pot on the internet. Even in the 2000s, our internet was more free than it is now. It's going backwards slowly, and the systems actually look better. The user interfaces are getting better. So it's the underlying stuff, it's the back end stuff that's the problem. The front ends are getting great. And that's part of what's luring us in.
And we're talking about user data and information control. What kind of information are you protecting at a high level in terms of, I guess, how do you log in to unstoppable domains? What information is shared? Not only that, I guess it just keeps this firewall between a user and the website, and that's how everybody keeps their own data.
So there's two separate things. One is you go to unstoppabledomains.com, you want to get a domain name. You can check out and get a domain name without any information. You can create an account with an email address, or you can not create an account and just get a domain name and claim it to your wallet. But in terms of the future internet that I was talking about, with the future internet, the point I was trying to make was, right now, if I want to go and use a social media app like a Facebook, all of my data is stored on Facebook servers. If Facebook decides that they don't like what I'm doing, they turn off my account, my data is trapped. It's not interoperable. I can be deleted essentially from the internet. They can be hacked, and that information can go to other people. They can read everything that I'm doing, see everything that I'm doing. And in the future, what will happen is you'll have that same data, like your social graph, your friends, your pictures, whatever your other information is, and you'll carry it around with you on the internet in like a data locker, and then you'll use your wallet to log in. So you won't have to deal with a password because you've already got your private key, and you won't have to deal with giving the social media app all of this data and then trapping it in that app. You'll just give it access to read certain things so that it can provide you with a service. And this changes the whole balance. You could have 50 different Facebooks all competing for your business, and you're no longer the product, you're the customer. Because right now, if they control your data, they sell the data to companies, you're the product, you're not the customer. If you control the data, you're the customer again. And that's actually the core problem that we're having in social media, is that, like, why do users keep getting screwed? Because they're not the customer.
Yeah, totally. And this kind of goes back a few years. And as you mentioned, day by day, and it's probably because I'm in this bubble as well, this blockchain kind of sphere of, I see what's happening, and it's just, it's not good as far as the companies we work with, how we interact, the cookies, the internet, everything's tracked and traced. And so it's good, obviously, this evolution. How soon do you think a lot of this Web3 will come to fruition for the masses? As you know, and I know, it's picking up momentum. What was it? The Analytica, right? Brittany from Cambridge, right? And kind of spilled the beans on a lot of things. Where are we at on this timeline of kind of moving to Web 3.0 on the masses?
So the way I think it's going to go is it's going to be crypto users first. Crypto users have the know-how and the burning need right now. And then I think after that, it's going to be people who can't access traditional web tools, who can't use Shopify, who struggle with, heavy internet censorship. And I think that's 2/3 of the world. That's a very large market, but it's probably not your, US tech businesses. US tech businesses are probably going to be the third wave. And the third wave will be, once the decentralized web is better, faster, cheaper. And I think that it absolutely will be better, faster, cheaper if you're opening up hosting to anybody in the world who happens to have space on their computer can store my content, versus I got to call up Amazon and negotiate with them. So I think that system will absolutely make for a better, faster, cheaper, more robust internet. But that could be 10 plus years in the future, where it can rival the current internet in terms of cost and performance. And so because it won't be able to rival in cost and performance, it'll be associated with these new features, and the new features around user control, portability, new model of security, those types of things. So you're going to start seeing these creeping use cases popping up all over the world in all of these different little categories. And then eventually, over the course of, 1 to 2 decades, it will overtake we'll start to migrate the traditional system. But that doesn't need to happen in the next, say, 3 to 5 years in order for us to get the engine turning.
And what was the decision to choose the storage or IPFS? Were there other options that you were entertaining or interested in and decided to go with IPFS?
This might be the most controversial belief that we have in the crypto world. We're completely agnostic to technologies. So I know it's like the most apolitical political thing you could possibly say, right?
It depends on who you're talking to. I think Well, first of all, we're an accelerator and a dev team, so we are agnostic too on some of the technology. And I think depending on what chain you're using, for the use case, the purpose, and all that, I think there's more people a little bit more agnostic. But at one point, yeah, it was very tribalism. It was like Bitcoin, EOS, Ethereum, like Hedera's or whatever. But I think a lot of people were starting to understand. I think they're starting to understand the real underlying concepts of blockchain and how it works, right? Like at one point it's building the infrastructure and like this is cool, this is cool, this is better. And then once we've been in the space now for some years, it's kind of like, all right, what's the use case? What's the underlying fundamental like purpose that we're even using a blockchain, regardless of the blockchain? Like how are you shouldn't really be worried about the blockchain. You should be worried about your data, or like, how are you going to execute like keeping your privacy? But not to cut you off. Yeah. Going back to IPFS. Yeah. What was the decision there? And did you look at other options? Because I know there's a lot of controversy on IPFS in general.
So just in general, what we think users want is they want options. So we'll support multiple storage network options, and maybe even store your content on multiple networks. So it's not just store on multiple nodes, but also multiple networks. Right now, we started with IPFS because it has the best developer tools and it has the most developers. So that was just the best place for us to start. But as we go, I'm sure there will be more networks there. And we started this way also with the domain names and crypto payments. We said these domain names should work for 100 different cryptocurrencies. You should be able to send any currency you want. So we've always had this kind of user choice approach, and it's just going to take a little while to implement there.
And that goes to being interoperable. So are you saying that you have the capability to transfer technologies like that to another storage, kind of decentralized storage, and kind of and by the way, what are you built on? What blockchain are you guys leveraging?
Yeah, so we just want our users to be able to choose which networks they would prefer to use with their domain names. The domain names themselves, we have .crypto on Ethereum, and then we have .zil on Zilliqa. In general, I think that which blockchain it lives on is more relevant to the apps than it is to the user, because it's about how hard it is for the apps to integrate with it or do stuff with it. So that's kind of more the consideration.
So it's like that network effect. What blockchain is going to drive more value to the apps, ultimately to the user end.
Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. We're still very early on. It's possible that these things will wind up, a new network will wind up popping up, and if it does, that's fine. We can support that too.
And at the moment, are you looking at other chains right now to integrate on?
Always looking, always doing research, always trying to follow along. So we're always watching what's going on.
Anything that catches your eye right now? The icons, the Nears, the Binances, any other chains that are interesting?
I won't comment too specifically. I think that there's a lot of interesting conversations going on right now about scaling. And so we're very much a part of those conversations and following along and playing around with new tech, but too early to talk about any specifics just yet.
And how does Zilliqa work? So ZIL, what coin is that, or what coins does that support? Just Zilliqa coins, and then also obviously on the Ethereum side you have 7 ERC20s.
Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah, ERC 721s, and it's very similar on the Zilliqa side. How it works, they're NFTs that are printed and tradable on a smart contract blockchain.
And going back to kind of products and features here, you guys have like a chat messaging and like payments embedded in some of this stuff. And, to kind of relate it to the traditional world, we also have WeChats, we also have Telegrams and other things. What was the motivation for having kind of a chat, and then also, as you mentioned, like you might have touched on it already, but like including payments in that for the user?
All of these things have usernames. So you have a payment address in the regular world, you've got a PayPal address, probably your email, you've got a Venmo account, whatever your name is. If it's your website, you've got a web address. If it's Messenger, you've got a Telegram handle and you've got a Facebook Messenger handle and whatever. So you've got all of these usernames already. Wouldn't it be a lot more secure if you had one username that could do all of those things? So you know when you're talking to somebody that and you're paying somebody, it's the same person. You know when you're visiting their website, you're communicating with the person that owns the website. You know when you're sending money to the website that it's the same person that owns the website. It's so much safer and more secure and simpler and more portable if all of these usernames get rolled into one username. Right now, I talked to one friend across 4 or 5 different platforms, each with a different username. That right there is the phishing scammer problem. How many people listening to this have had a fake somebody message them on Telegram? All of that comes from the fact that we have all of these usernames, all of these fake identities. There's no way to verify it. What we need to do is we need to have them connect better into more pieces of data about us so that we know who we're dealing with. And we took one very simple step in this direction a couple weeks ago, less than a week ago now, where we did an integration to verify your Twitter handle on the blockchain. And the purpose of this, and we use Chainlink oracles, and the purpose of this is to be able to, when I type in a domain name, you can see the Twitter account associated with it. And in this way, I now have information about the person that I'm getting ready to send money to before I send money. And this is much closer to how it works in something like Venmo. You have some information, you have a picture, you have a name, you have a social account, you have something to say like, this is the right person. You have nothing like that in the crypto world yet. And that's going to be important.
Yeah, I just saw that, and thanks for bringing that up. I saw that article regarding leveraging Chainlink and working with Twitter. So, what does it do now? So, if you want to, it's basically like a verification of who you're sending money to, and it leverages their Twitter handle.
You're tying your Twitter handle to your blockchain domain. And so what the net effect of that is you're tying your Twitter handle to a crypto address. And so then when somebody looks up that address in order to send you money, they can see the Twitter handle. So they know.
What was the decision on Twitter on leveraging that handle as opposed to something else?
That it's just a reasonably good source of identity in the regular world, not real world identity like pseudo anonymous identity, but one that people take seriously and that you've got some metrics that help you identify whether or not it's a legitimate one. So like you've got followers, you've got a history of content creation, all these other things. You wouldn't have that with a Telegram handle. I think Telegram handle might potentially still be good, but you could still wind up in a case where you look at it and you don't actually have any greater confidence that it's the right person. With Twitter, you would, and also a lot of relevant crypto folks use Twitter already, and are already doing something very similar to this. They put their domain name in their in their Twitter description, so they're getting pretty close to already doing this thing already for for donations or to receive money or whatever. We're just putting this on chain verifiably, and that's the new part is attaching essentially a real world ID to your crypto address for sending money. I think it's the first time this has happened. I think this type of thing is going to be, it's just like the thing about blockchain is that, it's so extensible. You can have all the way from this completely, ghostly anonymity to almost anonymity to pseudo anonymity to everything in between to totally open, totally known, identified. And I think people are going to do all of those different things. There's going to be use cases for every level of exposure like that. It's not everything is going to be completely pseudo anonymous because some people are going to choose to identify themselves, just like they do on social media.
And how about on the enterprise front? We've been talking a lot of the consumer side. Is there enterprise interest? Corporations or outside of maybe retail? Is there any interest there?
So crypto companies, of course, are the main focus for us. But we've run a process for brand owners to protect their domains so that those don't wind up getting used for phishing attempts, whatever, scamming, things like that. So we've blocked those off so that only the companies can register them. And several large companies have registered their domains. I think it's mostly a toy for them right now. They maybe they have a blockchain division or research division or something like that, and they're kind of looking around at most of them are kind of looking around at crypto payments for for international transactions. And these are large, consumer facing companies in America. And that's mostly the reason why I think they're curious about crypto right now. And so they're not really doing anything with them. They're mostly just buying them to hold them. But it's great because they go ahead and they get a crypto asset. Their blockchain division gets something to play with, and then in the future we can help them launch something.
And how have you seen business at a high level? Maybe some of the data. A lot of new customers coming on board. A lot of domains being bought. And then also, that's one question, like, how has business been? I'm assuming it's flourishing, but we can get that from you. And then two, we'll start there.
Yeah, so things have been growing pretty quickly. I mean, we're up 6x from where we were 6 months ago. Things have really, I think 2020 has really been the year where this stuff has started to become possible. We went live essentially end of December of 2019. These website templates went live in February. Opera browser became the first browser to support the decentralized web in end of March. We had Coinbase and Gemini and Huobi this summer. So most of the action has happened just in the past few months. It's been moving pretty fast.
And what kind of relationship with Huobi, Coinbase? What were we saying about that front?
These are all integrations. So Huobi Wallet and Coinbase now work for sending money. Gemini actually became the first exchange to store to custody NFTs. So they will store domains for you, and this is just like a lot of people like to store their crypto inside of an exchange so that they don't lose the keys. A lot of people are going to want to do that for domain names and other NFTs. So this is just a natural place for exchanges to go. They hadn't done it yet, but now they have.
Nice. And how about buying, selling, and of these domains? That's kind of a business, right? In the traditional world on domain names, are you seeing that? Is that going to be kind of a business? Not a second, I guess a secondary market for ZIL and .crypto.
Yeah, so check out OpenSea. You'll see a lot of action, a lot of .crypto domains up there and getting sold and things. There was actually one end of August that sold for $90,000. It was the largest NFT sale ever on OpenSea, I believe, at the time. So that was August 28th, something like that. So there's definitely a lot of activity there. It's it's a crypto asset that can move around very easily. So of course people are going to trade it. I think ultimately the real value is going to come longer term when people are actually building applications and things on the domains that people want to check out. But there's already kind of a healthy community of people that are playing around, building stuff, trading them, etc.
I got just a couple more questions. One of them being, how do you integrate into Web 2.0 or like other extensions? And then two, is there a mobile version of Unstoppable Domains?
So we are trying to integrate with browsers, browser extensions like VPNs, any kind of crypto browser extensions that exist, all of those things, in order to be able to allow users to use the tools they're already using in order to view decentralized websites. So that's an ongoing process. We're working with several of those parties. Sorry, what was the second one?
Yeah, and the second one was a mobile version, like a mobile app.
Nothing to say on that subject just quite yet.
Sounds great. So last question, and we'll kind of conclude this discussion. It's been great, been eye-opening, and I just think it's cool. I mean, I think this helps the user experience. I think it helps adoption, not only, as you mentioned, like not only in the crypto world, but once people get the hang and understanding of what the inspiration is here, I think, and the seamless of being able to make payments and move around the crypto world is what we need. So last question, like what are some of the barriers what are some of the current barriers that you see on adoption, just kind of in the crypto market? This could be interoperability, this could be scalability, this could be the UI UX function part of getting around and private keys and public keys. What's kind of your thoughts now that you've been in this space? We've seen infrastructure, we've seen the ups and downs of bear markets and many blockchains and cryptocurrencies. How do you see, what are some of the challenges right now that you're from your opinion?
So I think the biggest challenge at the start was integrations, getting this ecosystem going, because you need to have the ecosystem for the domains to be useful. That's started to work. So I think that's probably, that's going to be a long-term process, but I think that one is probably, in a good place. I think the problem that we all face is the awkwardness of interacting with blockchains, that you don't have finality, that you can have delays, that the tooling is just not in the same place as it would be for traditional internet tools, that it's just we're early on in the cycle, so the user experience is imperfect. And I think that is the real barrier, and once that stuff is figured out, that will really be the thing that opens up the floodgate. And I think that it's not just like make better user flows, it's like the tools themselves, even underneath the tools themselves, need to get a lot better in order for the user experiences to get better. So we see that as our job. That's the main thing we're focused on as a company, but it's got a long way to go.
No, you're totally right. I was just having this conversation, and a lot of the challenges and barriers are not necessarily, like you said, on the front end. It's the congestion of networks. It's the scalability, like the throughput kind of concerns and issues there that are, working its way up to, high gas fees and stuff like that. So you're totally right. I think on the front end, the UI UX is definitely on par. It's working, it's good, but beneath it, behind the scenes, is kind of where the issues lie. And I think some people got those two a little confused. And so you hit the nail on the head. So I was just talking about that the other day with BZX network and some of the exchange issues and things that they're tackling. Do you work with exchanges actually, or on swaps or between tokens, cross-chain stuff, or is that down the road?
So, exchanges have an opportunity to support domain names for sending money, because they have a send field. So that's an area that we're working with exchanges on.
Nice. Cool, man. Well, I think we've gone close to an hour here. It's been great chatting with you, Brad. This is your second time around. Looking forward to what can we expect in the next 6 to 12 months, if there's any kind of public info there.
You're going to see a lot more things that you can do with your domains. That's the biggest thing to look out for. Just you're going to continue to see more and more things you can do.
Nice. And I think that's important. You're staying focused and allowing features, upgrades, and composability, interoperability with other apps and dApps. And I think that's what's important. So, good to hear you focusing on that and driving value to various counterparties. So for Reimagine 2020, I'm your host, Adam, with Brad Cam here with Unstoppable Domains. Brad, real quick before you take off, where can people kind of learn more about the product, and where should they visit?
Yeah, so you should check us out on Twitter at Unstoppable Web. You can see all of our latest updates, and then check us out at unstoppabledomains.com.
And do you have any insight, or do you have any advice for students in college universities tuning into this, career paths, or if they're looking to get involved in blockchain, kind of, I don't know, some guidance a little bit at a high level?
Get into a company. Just jump in there. There's no degree or anything else like that or online course or whatever that's going to teach you how to do it. People don't know how to do startups until they do them. So, and everybody is an amateur until they've done one. So I would just get into one.
Do you think you need to be a developer?
Absolutely not. There's so many. I would say that the crypto world in particular has done a better job bringing in developer talent so far than it has bringing in business talent, because the developers they have a clear thing that they can do. They understand, they can play around with the tech. They can understand why it's technically important. And then a lot of the business folks are just not really sure. There's these kind of crazy token models. There are some projects that aren't really companies. It's just very hard for them to suss out, what to do. But I think that right now there's probably far more demand for awesome business talent in crypto companies than there is supply. So if you're not in crypto right now and want to get into crypto, come right in, jump in. The water's warm. And also, please apply at unstoppabledomains.com/jobs. We're hiring for everything.
Exactly. And I think this is one of the industries where a lot of the roles are very important. Not only, I just asked about developers, but not only developers, that's just one aspect. You still have your marketing, you still have your legal, and as you mentioned, your business development. So there's a spot for everybody that, you don't have to be technical, but if you have skills that kind of relate to these positions, there's plenty of opportunity. And I think this is the boom, as Brad just said, feel free to apply there. But no, thank you for that advice. I think it's always good to hear from individuals in the space on, like I said at the beginning, just how we stumbled into this thing. Some people come from biology, some people come from business, some people come from philosophy. There's a wide range of backgrounds, and it's not necessarily tech per se. So I appreciate you kind of sharing your thoughts and opinions here, and we hope to have you back.
Sounds great. Really appreciate you having me.
All right. For everybody, thanks for watching Reimagine 2020. I'm here with Brad Cam, Unstoppable Domains. I'm Adam, your host with MouseBelt. Hopefully you enjoy the conference, and we'll talk to you again, Brad. Thanks for joining.